I am Atlantic Tidewater Creole, and something that has never really rubbed me the right way is when people ask me how I know, or people ask me certain questions about my lineage that are rooted, frankly, in racism and misinformation fueled by miseducation about the peoples that were here, not only originally in the Americas, but also people who were in the Americas prior to colonialization. And that makes me very frustrated, to say the least, because my family's been here for a very long time, since I would like to say the 1500s. And that was around the time that the Moors were arriving. The 14 and 1500s were around the time that the Moors were arriving. And when you think about pre colonial America, I think a lot of people think it was just jungle, which is weird, wasteland, which is weird, Native Americans, which there were, and also that's it, which is not true. And there were more people here in the Americas than the Native Americans, and there were more people here in the Americas than when what was suspected when they said that the Atlantic slave trade happened. Now, I want to say something that I have not really put too much stake into, but it's kind of calling me, is that we talk about the transatlantic slave trade, but we don't talk about the Atlantic Creoles. And why don't we talk about the Atlantic Creoles? Well, who are the Atlantic slash Tidewater Creoles? Those are the black indigenous people of the Americas who were here prior to colonialization. This happened prior to the transatlantic slave trade, which was much later than my family had arrived. I would say about 100 or so, 70 to 100 years after my family had been here. And that is something that people don't want to talk about, is that there were families who were on the East Coast who were foundational and instrumental in building this civilization into what it has been and what it has always been. And that is frustrating because my family comes from fishermen and oystermen who were in the Tidewater area of Maryland and Virginia. It kind of depended on the day where they were. And they would fish on the waters of the bay. And there was a lot of mixing that happened prior to colonialization in this nation. And that is something we don't talk about because it doesn't fit the narrative that people like to perpetuate. And if you look at my family tree, you would see basically a beautiful rainbow. And I think that that is wonderful and spectacular. But also, I don't think that people understand what that really means. So I'm going to kind of back it up. The Tidewater Creoles were here. They were basically people who were indigenous to this land. They were made of Moorish people, aka black people, Native Americans, people who were of European descent, and they basically had a very tight-knit community in the lower eastern shore and the lower areas of Maryland, Virginia, and the northern areas of North Carolina. And they had a very close community where they had a lot of, racial mixing, and it wasn't a thing. Like, you have to think about the fact that back then, before colonialism had really hit, and it wasn't like a big thing, and it was just Jamestown and settlements and not cities and industry. These things weren't a thing. They weren't a big deal. And you've got Native American people marrying Native American people, Native American people marrying white people, who married black people, who married white people, who married Native American people. It was just a big melting pot. And my hometown stayed that way for a very long time. And then you think about how did this change? How did these things evolve? Well, then you got to think about the paper act, and the paper genocide, and how that affected a lot of people on Maryland's Eastern Shore specifically, and in Maryland Lower Shore, and Virginia's Lower Shore, and northern shores of North Carolina. These paper genocides messed people over so that they were screwed out of their land, which is one of the most important things for Black people to have, is land ownership. And they screwed us out of it through a paper genocide. And those are things that we don't talk about. So I have this ancestral connection. You wouldn't even know about it, because here's the thing: I have the ancestral connection. Some people might not, because they might not even know these things exist, or to even look for these things, to look in the places where I've looked, where they try to hide things from me, because I've literally tried to find manumission papers and I was denied that multiple times. In that area, there's such a strong pull and tie to spirituality, and such a strong pull and tie to so many different areas and lands and regions. And there's a reason behind that. It's because I come, and so many people come from so many different lineages that stem from so many different lineages that aren't just relegated to one area of the world. It's not just my family was impacted by the transatlantic slave trade. I'm sure that there were members of my family that were impacted by the transatlantic slave trade. But when I look at my family genealogy and lineage, and when I actually look at the papers that my family has had in the government within the past years, that I've actually found and saved and looked at and searched and researched, I found so many beautiful gems about my family's legacy, and so many things that have been kept from me as well. And that's not on accident. It's because there's such a rich cultural history that lives within the Eastern Shore, within the lower shores, within the northern shores of Carolinas. So that's what I'm saying, is there's so much to learn about these areas. And so I'm so impassioned and emboldened and excited about the fact that I'm going to make a documentary about this area, because I'm just so excited about the potential of what could be, and what I could uncover, and what could be so exciting to learn about and share with the rest of the world, because I know there's so much there. There's so much rich cultural history there, and there's so much to learn just in that one environment, one microcosm of the whole general macro.